Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to rabbiforme.org. It's nice to see you here. Terrorism and ISIS is just not leaving the headlines. They've been dominating them for the past month and a half, and the threats that are posed by ISIS and other terrorist organizations are ever so much more close and relevant than they have ever been before. The most recent threat that is being publicized is the threat of homegrown terrorism. Whereas opposed to 5 years ago, these terrorists that were recruited from America and from other countries in Europe to go fight in Syria, Iraq, and Afghanistan, 5 years ago, these terrorists, American terrorists, were saying, "Oh no, I would never come back to America." Now, they're singing a different song. These terrorists are now saying, you know what? I am going to come back to America. And you know what? I can train people in America. I don't even have to take them to Syria. And you know what? They don't even have to leave America in order to practice their religious terrorism. They can stay here and practice their terrorism right on our doorsteps. This threat has been addressed very strongly by the British Prime Minister. Finally, other countries are waking up to the reality, and they've decided to start fighting ISIS and to put them back where they belong. But the question is, if America, which was always our safe haven, this is the most secure, most just country in the entire world, if this country's not safe anymore, then where is it safe? That brings us to the next topic, and that is the Jewish month, which we just entered 5 days ago, the month of Elul. The Jewish calendar has 12 months, and in a little bit less than a month, in 25 days, it is going to be Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the Jewish year. If in 25 days it's the beginning of the Jewish year, that means right now we are in the last month leading up to the end of the year and the beginning of the next year. The month of Elul is very famous for the acronyms made up from the letters of its name. Elul has 4 letters, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed. The most famous acronym using these letters is a verse from the Tanakh, Ani l'dodi v'dodi li. My beloved is to me, and I am to my beloved. And there's great lengthy discussion about how in the month of Elul, the King of Kings, which is God, leaves his palace to come out and spend time with the simple folk like us, and he's very approachable. It's now a golden opportunity that even not in synagogue and not on the Sabbath and not on the holidays and not even dressed up with a fancy suit and tie, you can approach God and ask him for what you need and make the resolutions to make yourself a better person, without all the prerequisites and all of the conditions that are later applied on the Yom Hadin, the Day of Judgment on Rosh Hashanah. There's another acronym, and that's the one that I want to talk about. It's actually from a verse in the book of Exodus, referring to an inadvertent murderer, someone who by accident murdered someone else. The rule is that when someone accidentally kills someone else, there is the avenger of blood who is entitled to, and not only that, but encouraged to avenge the blood of the one who had killed his relative. Now, there are various restrictions to this, but it's not an absolute ruling. It's not like, oh, I by accident killed someone, so now someone's going to be killing me. There is a safe haven from the avenger of the blood, and that is going to an Ir Miklat. In temple times, there were 6 cities that were designated as cities of refuge. In Messianic times, we will have a few added on to that. And additionally, there were another 48 cities of the Levium, of the Levites, that were also designated as safe havens for these people that inadvertently killed someone. So, in essence, the punishment for inadvertently, accidentally killing someone is not the death penalty. It is the punishment of going into exile. Someone who kills someone by accident deserves to go into exile, and that is their safe haven from the avenger of the blood. Now, when the Torah is describing these laws, it says the following words: Ina liyado v'samti lach. That Hashem put it in his hand, and I will give you, and the verse continues, that city of refuge. So, again, these same letters, Aleph, Lamed, Vav, Lamed, Ina, Aleph, Liyado, Lamed, Visamti, Vav, Lach, Lamed. So this same letters have another acronym that are referring to the city of refuge, the safe haven. Now, let's just talk about, in simple English, what is this safe haven? Because if you think about it, going into some more details, the Avenger of the Blood is allowed to sit right outside the city. There might be, I think there's a small buffer zone, but the Avenger of the Blood is sitting right outside with swords and knives and maybe bow and arrows, or maybe in more modern times he's wearing a suicide belt, or maybe he has a mortar stuffed in his backpack. But there's someone waiting right outside to kill this person who only accidentally killed someone. The safe haven is not ruling out, it's not getting rid of all of his problems. It is just securing him in an insecure reality. And that's kind of what we're dealing with now in America. We're coming to the realization that America isn't indeed that as secure as it always was. And it is a target of terrorism. And not only that, a target of homegrown terrorism. The haven that we need to find is a haven which secures us in an insecure world. I want to tell you a little story. This is a story I think I shared about a year ago. There was a man who learned through the entire Shas, the entire Talmud. It took him 21 years. And this is a man who was not brought up learning Torah. Hebrew was not his native language. He had only learned it later on in life, and even to this day, I don't think he's very fluent in Hebrew or Aramaic, the language of the Talmud. I approached him, I asked him, what gave you the drive to spend 21 years learning 63 books of Talmud? His answer was the following. He said, well, I was going through a very hard time in my life. I was dealing, at that time, I was living in a Beverly Hills mansion. I had a business that was rocking and rolling. And one day, everything crashed. He was a lawyer, and the area of his practice was basically killed by new legislation. And his whole business was gone in a matter of months. At the same time, he also had marriage problems, and he had lost a lot in his personal life. Now, at that time, he had been donating about $10,000 a week to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe would give out those dollars famously to the passers-by. Whoever would stand by in line, the Rebbe would give them $1 and a blessing. This man had special VIP access because of his donations, and approached the Rebbe, who was at that time not already so approachable, and he asked the Rebbe, how can I deal with the trials and tribulations that I'm going through right now? I lost my huge business. I lost my family. What else do I have left in life? What can give me the drive to keep on going? The Rebbe answered him, if you learn through the entire Talmud, that will be your safe haven. And that's what he did. He went to a rabbi and said, can you please help me start learning Talmud? Years later, he finished. Did he get his business back? No. He's still a poor man driving an old jalopy van. Did he get his family back? The reality is, his family didn't get all that much better. The reality is that his life, the surroundings at least in his life, the circumstances that he was dealing with, pretty much stayed the same for those 21 years. But what changed was him inside. He found the safe haven. The safe haven was not his multi-million-dollar mansion in Beverly Hills. His haven was not that family which he loved so much. His haven was inside of him. And it took him 21 years of studying the Talmud until he found that haven. And that is actually what Elul, when we say that there's a safe haven in time, this month is that safe haven that we can seize. We can take this opportunity, we can seize it, and through learning Torah, which is also a haven, like you see in the story, a haven not to necessarily make $1 million, but it's a safe haven to change inside. And that's the safe haven that America needs today. Not the safe haven of, oh, we have an army that's going to take care of us, because the safety and the security has to come from within each and every American. And everyone have a wonderful Labor Day, and I hope to see you next time.